All right, everybody, I'm back. If you haven't started missing me yet, you will soon, because unfortunately, this is our last session together. So let's talk about dividends. None of this is investing advice, financial advice, legal advice, none of that, but just advice from a friend. All right, dividends. Let's talk about those. So when a company earns a profit, let's say it sells you one of those Tex-Mex burgers. Ugh, Um, companies sell something for, let's say, $10. The cost that it costs them to produce it, rent, employees, materials, research and development, that's its cost. And let's say it cost them $5 to make it. They sold it for 10. They made a $5 profit. They sold 100 of them. It's a $500 profit. So they can do two things with that money. First, they can reinvest the profit back into the business. They can buy more equipment, they can pay off their debt, or they can just stockpile it, save it for future use when they find a new promising opportunity, a new product line they'll want to develop. That'll cost them money, and they can start saving for that today. Just like you guys should all be saving for your futures, hopefully. That's called retained earnings. The company is retaining, keeping its profits. And that's money that the company retains for its own use in the future. Or the company can do the second thing. They can share those profits. Very generous. They can share their profits among their stockholders. When stockholders are paid these profits, that's called a dividend. And you get a dividend based on each share that you own. So a dividend, it's a portion of the profits that's periodically paid to shareholders every quarter, every year. Most companies do it quarterly. Some companies don't do it at all. They're too busy, again, retaining their earnings for future use to build a new factory, to create a new microchip. So you can retain your earnings or you can pay those as dividends, and you get a dividend based on every share you own. So the company's paying $1 per share and you own 1,000 shares, they'll give you $1,000. There are two types of dividends. There's a cash dividend and a stock dividend. Stock dividends, they're not that common. I mean, that happens sometimes, but most dividends we think about are their cash dividends. So the company will pay their shareholders a certain dollar amount for each share they own. What's an investor going to do with their cash dividends? Um, you can use it as a source of income, or you can reinvest your dividends back into your stock portfolio. A lot of brokerage platforms, they'll let you do a DRIP, a dividend reinvestment program. It's a button you press, bing, and that just says, hey, every time this company gives me a couple dollars of cash, just buy more shares of that company with however many dollars they've given me. And that's a way to reinvest in the company. How's that different from a stock dividend if they just give you each person, let's say each person gets another tenth of a share? All right, let's talk about different approaches to dividends. Is it good to pay dividends? Do we like that? Or do we want companies to hold on to their money? Who's going to do a better job investing that money? If Coca-Cola gives you $5, are you going to do better with it than Coca-Cola would do hanging on to it? Well, Coca-Cola does pay dividends. They pay 4 times a year, and they've done so since 1920. That's pretty impressive. Imagine having a bad year. I mean, it makes it a lot harder to pay a dividend, but Coca-Cola has been really stable because we keep drinking our Diet Cokes. So Coca-Cola will pay you dividends, and then you can invest that in another company. Coca-Cola is saying, hey, we have this extra cash. We're not going to build more Coke factories. We have enough Coca-Cola factories. So, hey, you take the cash. Apple, on the other hand, Apple stopped paying dividends for a number of years while Steve Jobs was CEO because he was creating all the newest, latest, and greatest products. Steve Jobs was retaining those profits for R&D, and boy, oh boy, did that pay off big for the company. During the summer of 2011, Apple had more cash than the United States government because it was holding on to its cash. And it does periodically, very often, invest a lot of that cash in research and development. And that's Apple's way of saying, hey, we could give you that cash, but don't you want us to keep it and invest it for you on your behalf? We can keep coming up with new and interesting products, AirPods, Apple Watch, um, you know, Apple Car maybe one day, who knows? But that all takes money, and Apple needs to hold on to its money to do that. Berkshire Hathaway, does anyone know what that is? Well, what's Berkshire Hathaway? Well, that's Warren Buffett's company. You might have heard of Warren Buffett. He's a legendary investor who's based in Omaha, Nebraska. Maybe by the time, I mean, he's old. He's old. He's very old. I wonder, anyways. Some companies like Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway, they don't pay any dividends at all. Instead, they choose to reinvest their profits back into the company instead. Again, this has worked out very well for Berkshire Hathaway. In April 2020, a single share of Berkshire Hathaway stock was selling for more than a lot of folks' homes, $275,000 a share. Although investors don't get the value of a dividend payment, the fact that Mr. Buffett didn't pay out those dividends, kept that money and reinvested it, hey, well, that paid off for shareholders because then they could sell their stock for more money to someone else in the future when they did need to cash out. All right, companies that pay dividends, let's talk about that as a matter of industries, stock prices, and we'll talk about the balancing act that we've been alluding to. So many companies that pay dividends, they're usually in the food and beverage space, utility space, housing, pharma, healthcare. These companies, first of all, they're thought to be more immune to changes in the economy, so they're willing to pay out their profits rather than retain them for a rainy day. And these dividend-paying stocks often perform well on the stock market. We can talk about dividends and stock prices. When a company pays dividends, that's a signaling mechanism. It's a way of the company saying, hey, we think we can pay you this every single quarter. And that can build a lot of trust with investors. Investors say, okay, the company's management, they're pretty confident. It's a good sign. It can be a sign of financial stability. And the prices of many dividend-paying stocks have increased slowly, because they pay out a little and they keep a little. They're sort of more steady companies, as we were saying. But it's a balancing act. Companies that pay dividends need to balance that by keeping enough money for a rainy day fund or to reinvest back into the company while also keeping investors happy. So that's a balancing act. And maybe they want to keep all their profits so that they can come out with the newest, latest and greatest hit product. Or maybe investors don't trust them to do so and want them to pay their profits out as dividends. So proceed with caution. Everything about investing is about being cautious and thoughtful. Also, so dividends are not guaranteed. Just because a company like Coca-Cola has been paying since 1920, if they had a particularly bad year, they can easily, with no repercussions, I mean, their stock price will go down, but they can say, we're not going to pay that dividend anymore. So companies can cut their dividend, pay a lower amount, or they can suspend their dividend. And they can do that temporarily, they can do that permanently. If a company needs to increase its cash flow, or it's worried about its financial stability, it can change its dividend payouts. For example, General Electric, big company, they do a lot of different things. They had to reduce their dividends from 12 cents to a penny not too long ago. So to make matters worse for the investors, the stock market can react negatively to a dividend cut. The company cuts its dividends, so not only are you getting less money in dividends as an investor, but also now no one wants to take that share off your hands. It's harder to cash out. You'll cash out at a lower price. So another thing to know is that dividends are taxable, and all dividend income must be reported to the IRS. What does that mean? That means that when a company pays you a dividend, that's income today. So if the company, let's say it's worth $10, they could either pay you $1 which means that they're now worth $9, right? Because they've literally given you $1 of their value in cash. So they're now worth $9, and you have to pay $1 taxes on that dollar today. Whereas if they don't give you that, and so 9 plus 1, that's 10. If they don't pay you that dividend today, they can hold on to that dollar. They're still worth $10. You have $10, and you don't have a tax bill. So they pay you a dividend. You have 9 plus 1. You got to pay 1. You got to pay taxes on the 1. Call it 30 cents. So now you have $9.70 rather than just a $10 stock. You now have $9 stock and $1 that's turned into 70 cents because you got to pay your taxes. Very important. Some dividends are taxed at the shareholder's ordinary income tax rate. Other dividends are called qualified dividends. They're taxed as capital gains, which gets more favorable tax treatment, a lower tax treatment. So 4 dates that are important for a dividend. It's not just like, company pays you whenever they want. Usually the board of directors of a company, they declare a dividend. So that's when they announce that they'll be paying a dividend. And then they say there's an ex-dividend date and a payment date. They're a couple weeks later, usually, maybe even more. So they declare the dividend. That's step 1. I'm paying a dividend announcement. All right, step 2, who do they pay the dividend to? Remember, these stocks are getting traded all the time. Ken Griffin is in and out of stocks in a millisecond. The amount of stock flowing through Brickell every second, it's immense. So who actually gets to collect the dividend? How do we decide that? So that's the record date. So it's a cutoff date. Shareholders are actively trading stock. The record date is when the company announces their dividend. They say, okay, everyone who owns the stock as of November 1st, they get the dividend. So at the end of the day on November 1st, we stop the clock. We see who owns the stock. That's who gets the dollar dividend. And the very next day, if you buy that stock, you're not getting that dividend when it gets paid out. The dividend doesn't get paid out on the record date. Again, we should talk about the ex-dividend date. That's the day after the record date. If you purchase the shares on the ex-dividend date, that means that they trade ex-dividend without that dividend. So you buy it, you don't get the dividend. You own the stock. And usually on the ex-dividend date, the stock price goes down a little bit because the company has paid out cash. It's now worth a little less. And the cash isn't going to the ex-dividend buyers. Payment date, that's when shareholders receive that dividend. Again, you announce you're paying a dividend. You say if you own the stock, say on November 1st, you'll get paid a dividend, and you'll get paid that dividend on November 15th. Companies need time to come up with these lists, to make sure everything's in order, to put in all the payment information. It's not an instant process. All right, so we're going to look at an example of dividends. Let's select these question marks to see what this means. So 176, that means that Walt Disney Co., they pay $1.76 for each share owned. If you own 1,000 shares, you get 1,076, 760 doll hairs. Not too shabby. 444. All right, Clorox is paying $4.44 a share. Not too bad. What's Snap paying? Nothing. They're still investing in their growth, or maybe they're just not making any profit. Got to send more snaps and maybe they'll get more profit, but they're not paying a dividend right now. The benefits of dividends. All right, why do you want a stock that pays dividends? It's another source of income. You can reinvest it or use it to pay your bills. And companies that pay dividends, they're usually slightly more stable companies. Let's discuss. Let's take a look at our portfolios. All right, Burger Bell Palace people, where are you at? Raise your hands. All right, let's see what's going on. Did you hold? Did you buy, sell? Let's see, time has passed. Globe Hopper, they were doing a little bit better last time, right? What happened? Let's see. All right, leisure traveling increasing, busy holiday season expected. All right, not bad. That's good for the company. All right, hopefully Texas Tea Oil, they're bankrupt. I mean, we too much global warming. It's hot. All right, nothing. Oil prices are steady. Our bank, hopefully the bank is steady too. I hope it didn't, I don't know, collapse. Good. All right. Share price of Freedom Bank steady. Burger Bell Palace. Whoa. All right, that's what I was saying. I love Tex-Mex. All right. The new Tex-Mex burger, it's proved to be a big hit. Company seems to have made the right decision by closing stores in Europe, so they're not losing any money anymore in Europe. Stocks rebounded. All right. Hold it. You guys held on to that one, or did you sell when it dropped? Long term, baby. Long term. Okay, let's see. InstaSnap Link, that was doing well. Still going strong, but they've sort of, reached market saturation. Okay, all right. Maybe they'll find a new product and grow that way. Let's see. Who knows? Rag. Oh, oof. Oh, Rag was accused of taking advantage of unfair labor practices and has come under heavy criticism for possible human rights violations. That's not cool. I don't know. I don't want to be I don't want to be anywhere near that kind of company. That's not good. All right. Well, that's what's happened. That's your latest news, and it's me reporting for JA Junior Achievement of Greater Miami News, I guess. Signing off. So calculate the value of your stock portfolio based on these new prices. A little bit of quick maths. See how you're doing. And then we can calculate some dividends. All right, more maths. Cool. You're getting some dividends. Woo, woo. All right, debrief. We're going to debrief a little. We're going to talk about two things a company can do with its profits and reinvest in the business, which can be really good. That means it thinks that it has growth prospects, or that can be bad. It might be mistaken about those growth prospects and be investing into a nothing burger, not a Tex-Mex burger. We love those, I guess. I don't know. All right, share the profit. That's number two. Share the profit among stockholders. Say, hey, stockholders, you take the extra couple of dollars, pay your bills, buy some other stock, or reinvest it back in our company. Two types of dividends, cash and stock. Again, cash dividends are by far the most common dividends. Stock dividends, it's sort of just like cutting the pizza thinner. Although there can be special exceptions to that, but it's always not really, doesn't move the needle. Companies that pay dividends, they're usually more stable. Companies that pay dividends, they provide benefits like the fact that you can reinvest those dividends or use those dividends to pay bills. And again, those companies are a little more stable. That might not be a good thing. You might want a little more risk in your portfolio for the long term, investing in more speculative, high risk, high reward stocks. Or you might be a retiree and really want that stable income and not really lose, oh boy, lose all your money like I've been known to do. So that's leaves us with some time to reflect. Why do you think the market events affected, either positively or negatively, some of the stock prices in your fictitious portfolio? How did dividends affect your portfolio? Were you surprised by the amount of some of those dividends? Were they larger or smaller than you expected? Why is that? And would you rather get paid dividends in cash or stock? Hopefully I gave you an answer to that last one. All right, review any notes. If you're completing the activity page digitally, save it with a log. All right, I'm not going to read that. All right, and that'll do it, everybody. Congrats, you finished the session. I want to congratulate you on getting a sense of how the stock market works. I want to encourage you to look more into the stock market, Google it, look at Wikipedia, get a sense of how finance works for two reasons. First of all, lots of good jobs in finance, especially in Miami. You can be close to home, close to the beaches. close to all the joy that Miami offers, while also working in a high-paying, fast-paced, exciting, interesting job. It can be software coding, it can be research, it can be all sorts of analysis, it can be corporate development. There's all these jobs that are coming to Miami in the finance sector. And by thinking about what a stock is, how a stock works, you can be part of Miami's growth, and you can ensure your own growth as a professional. The second reason to be excited about learning about the stock market is to compete for a chance to be a part of the in-person competition. I'd encourage all of you to think a bit about what we've been talking about. How are you going to maximize your chance of securing your spot in that in-person competition? And then lastly, um, I'll throw in a bonus tip. It's just good to know about how the stock market works so that you can invest your own money wisely and not be like me, who had a lot of fun trading stocks as a young lad, and didn't work out too well for me. I hope it works out better for you guys. I hope you diversify. I hope you keep your eyes on the long-term prize. And I'm wishing you all the best. Again, I'm Benjamin Seth Friedman. Please feel free to reach out to me, probably LinkedIn, send me a note, say hi, let me know what you thought, let me know if you have any questions. I'm always happy to help my fellow Miami-Dade County public school students. And for now, so long.